issue of collusion. It is, I think, of a size and scope probably beyond Watergate.
Have you seen, do you have direct evidence of collusion with Russia?
Well, I think there is direct evidence.
I think it's corrupt and evidence of collusion.
What's your evidence? You've been saying that on TV for years.
Well, I will tell you, and I've also been saying, as you know, that the evidence is in plain sight, not hidden anywhere. But as I've said all along, there's plenty of evidence of collusion and corrupt commingling.
Folks, here's the deal. No evidence. Investigation after investigation proved there was no evidence. So the one story is about Adam Schiff, who escapes censure. But the other real story is about the problems this causes us when we have Republicans in Washington that are willing to stand with Democrats. When we have Republicans in Washington that are willing to turn their backs on Americans. What Adam Schiff did, lying to the American people about this, about so-called intelligence, about so-called evidence, it's not just calling Republicans racist. It's not just calling President Trump names or calling me names or calling all of you deplorables. It's worse than that. It's literally lying about things to get the media to push for the entire impeachment hoax that President Trump had to face. This is Wesley Hunt talking about what went down. Check it out.
It was blatant lies that he told to the American public, that he took information from the SCIF, that's a secret information, and then shared it with the public and then lied on the information that he was receiving. Now, if that's not un-American, I don't know what is. He's already been kicked off the Intelligence Committee. And quite frankly, I don't know how he walks in the halls of Congress with that level of shame. It's treasonous in many ways to lie to the American public in order to weaponize the government against a sitting president. And then they're taking it one step further to weaponize the government against the next political opponent.
Wesley Hunt nails it there. So with these 20 Republicans refusing to censure Adam Schiff, you know what it proved to me, folks? It proved that not only is the deep state real, but the deep state has infiltrated the halls of Congress. And I don't just mean the bureaucrats that are running the offices for these congressmen and women, but these congressmen and women are the deep state. We now have 20 Republicans that I look at as members of the deep state because they refuse to do what is right. And listen to what it leads to. Adam Schiff literally gloating on CNN about escaping this censure vote.
For the Speaker McCarthy to bring this stuff to the floor is an embarrassment, and it's also an abuse of the House resources. It would be laughable. I mean, you had George Santos today saying we got to pass this to restore integrity of the House. This stuff would be laughable if it wasn't, the House of Representatives. But it's clear the lunatics have taken over the asylum. And they want to try to distract from Trump's legal woes. They want to gratify his MAGA base by going after someone they consider his chief antagonist.
This is why the Democrats win. We let him go on CNN and spew this nonsense. And then he talks about extremists. I mean, literally, we queued it up for him to hammer away at Republicans. The Republican Party did that thanks to these 20 traitors. Watch this, Adam Schiff basically queuing it up. Cut 3.
I thought that vote would certainly fail, that Republicans wouldn't bring this to the floor unless they had the votes to pass it. But to my great surprise, the motion table passed on a strong bipartisan basis. 20 Republicans, roughly 1 out of every 10, voted to table this MAGA resolution. It was too extreme even for them. So that was, I suppose, a victory.
This is all because of Republicans. We bring this on ourselves all too often. How frustrating is it? We literally have President Trump under attack. We've got everyone around President Trump under attack. He can't find a lawyer right now because every single lawyer out there is afraid they'll be disbarred by some radical bar association in some radical state because they worked with President Trump. This nation is under attack. So yes, a small vote on voting to censure Adam Schiff may seem like a little thing to these 20 Republicans. To me, it's everything. To me, it's about saying enough is enough, and we're not going to tolerate the lies. We're not going to tolerate the fake news. We're not going to tolerate the attacks and the weaponization of government against conservatives. We're not going to do it anymore. And then I got to watch people like Mike Pence, a man who I once had great respect for. I actually thought he was a decent man. Now I look at him as a confused, lost soul who apparently has joined the deep state. This is what Mike Pence says about J6ers.
We cannot ever allow what happened on January 6th to happen again in the heart of our democracy. And I'll stand by the decisions and the due process of court in our laws. And I have no interest or no intention of pardoning those that assaulted police officers or vandalized our Capitol. They need to be answerable to the law.
Do you understand the 20 people who voted not to censure Adam Schiff might as well take the side of Mike Pence? Weak Republicans will get this nation nowhere. Mike Pence is being weak. He's angry with President Trump, clearly, so he's going to take the opposite side on everything. That's not what this country needs at all. Democrats are now emboldened by all of this, okay? Because of Republicans like these, I think it's appropriate that we read the 20 names. We'll throw them up on the screen with their pictures. Kelly Armstrong of North Dakota, Lori Chavez of Oregon, Juan Ciscomani of Arizona, Tom Cole of Oklahoma, Warren Davidson of Ohio, Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Kate Granger of Texas, disgrace, Garrett Graves of Louisiana, Tom Keene of New Jersey, Kevin Kiley of California. I was told this guy was supposed to be the great conservative hope from California. Kevin Kiley, a disappointment. Young Kim from California, Mike Lawler, New York, Thomas Massey of Kentucky, another guy who's normally good but surprises me being bad all too often as well. He's from Kentucky. Tom McClintock of California, Mark Molinaro of New York, Jay Obernolte of California, Mike Simpson of Idaho, Michael Turner of Ohio, David Valadeo of California, no surprise from him, Steve Womack of Arkansas. Folks, these people are the reason we're in the problem we are in right now. You know, I mentioned Thomas Massey of Kentucky, disgrace. Young Kim of California, here's what I will give her credit for. As soon as I saw she was on the list, she came on my radio show. You know, I did morning drive radio for AM 870 out in Los Angeles. She actually came on and explained her reasoning after me blasting her for an hour. You know, that takes guts. Still was a bad vote. Listen to Young Kim on my radio show.
Included in that was the $16 million fine. That would have set a precedent for us by, we know that was, if we continue that, if we set the precedent voting for the fine members for lying, we know that will become a weaponized tool. Imagine what Democrats would do in the majority if we can take $60 million from a member of Congress. That's 92 years away. It's counterproductive and takes away from the work of getting things done.
All right, so she kept going on about the $16 million. But the $16 million was not a guarantee that Schiff would be fined. It didn't say shall be fined $16 million. In fact, in the next segment, I had Mike Garcia, who did vote to censure Adam Schiff, explain why the $16 million was not a big deal and you could have gotten around it.
Well, the language when you read the bill says that there's some words that, are imperatives. Like if the bill text says shall, that means that is a binding agreement, right? That if it's passed, Congress shall fine him $16 million. This language was basically where it said whereas, which is not binding. It's like saying should, and so it wasn't this required $16 million fine.
Folks, here's my message to you. When these lawmakers come home, the 20 names that I just read, I want you to approach them at the town hall and I want to ask them, what were you thinking? See, I promise you, every single one of these lawmakers goes home from Washington and they talk tough to you. They'll shake your hand at some event. They'll meet you at some Republican women's conference. They'll be happy to talk about how they're going to take the fight to the Biden administration. All the while, they go up there and they end up siding with Democrats. These Republican rhinos are what's hurting America. So the time now is to say, are you with us or are you against us? You know, President Trump coined the phrase America first. I love the phrase America first. But you know what? I think maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's American people first. Because what I'm seeing in Washington is that lawmakers go up there and they put self-interest over national interest. They don't care about you and me. All they care about are making their deals in Washington. American people first. Maybe I'm an American people first Republican before just America first Republicans. It's about us, isn't it? It's about making life for us good. And when I see Republicans break us down, beat us, set up Democrats to beat us up as well, you know I'm left absolutely steaming mad. So again, this is about the deep state that has infiltrated Congress. There's no doubt in my mind they're there. These 20 Republicans are part of the deep state as far as I'm concerned. So what will happen when President Trump wins back the White House? This time, he's got to root out the deep state. This is President Trump.
When I'm reelected, and we will get reelected, we have no choice. We're not going to have a country anymore. I will totally obliterate the deep state. We will obliterate the deep state. And we know who they are. I know exactly who they are. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. It's very simple.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, we have some members of Congress up there that think, act, and believe in the things that President Trump does. But we need more of them. And when 20 members of Congress are willing to side with Democrats, I got a real serious issue. So Anna Paulina Luna, who brought this to the floor, who brought this provision to censure Adam Schiff, says she will reintroduce the censure bill without the $16 million fine so we can get these chicken wuss Republicans on board with it. Thank you, Anna Paulina Luna. It's a shame that we don't have every Republican member of Congress strong enough to stand up to the Democrats. If we did, we would be in a much better spot. Coming up after the break, with all this talk about rhinos and conservatives not being able to get on the same page, there is actually one man in Congress who has a much more conservative record than you might think. He is the surprising conservative of the day. I will reveal to you that congressman. He takes a lot of heat, by the way, but I looked at his record personally. I will reveal to you the secret conservative in Washington when we come back. back, everybody. I will tell you, China is on the rise. And if we don't push back against China, they are going to literally destroy us economically and Lord knows how else. It is time we take the fight to them, but the Biden administration is not doing that. And we see now that they've got a spy base in Cuba. This has been going on for a long time. This is not new. I don't care what anybody tells you, even with just the recent admission from the Biden administration. I think they've been working with Cuba for a long time. There's evidence that they're in the Bahamas. There's evidence that China's everywhere. Heck, they had spy balloons flying over us. This is Carlos Jimenez talking about the Biden administration and its role with China. Watch.
President Biden is looking at opening up dialogue, more dialogue with Cuba, and Blinken is now thinking of he's going to go to China, open up a dialogue with them. I have zero confidence in their ability to put this aside or have the Chinese stop this activity, because I believe whatever comes out of those negotiations or talks with China is not going to be beneficial to the United States. All you have to do is look at his record. It's dismal. He is inept. He is incompetent, and I don't think he's the right person to be Secretary of State.
Well, he's spot on that. I mean, China's going to hand it to them. They have no ability to negotiate or talk tough with people that are strong bullies in the world, like China, like Russia, and others. So I was at the new federal state of China. You know our friends. They're trying to take down the CCP, their third-year anniversary party. And I'm there, and Congressman George Santos from New York is there. You remember George Santos. He was all kinds of controversy going on about the resumes and all this stuff. And I'm listening to him talk. And I'm listening to him talk tough about China. I said, well, this is interesting. He's from New York. I didn't think he could be a very strong conservative. So I go to look at George Santos's record. He introduced a bill eliminating vaccine mandates. I think we have a graphic of this, if we could throw that up. He voted against the debt ceiling. It's good. Voted to withdraw troops from Syria. He introduced a bill to impose sanctions on China. And he introduced a resolution to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. Then I got to talking with George Santos at this third anniversary of the new federal state of China. And I said, this guy actually is what we need in Washington. He's following through with these things. I looked at Heritage Action. He's voted every single way Heritage Action wanted him to vote. His scorecard is very good amongst conservatives. So my surprising conservative of the week is George Santos. Joining me now, the Republican congressman from New York, is George Santos. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Oh, hi, Greg. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
So this is what a great friend he is. He calls me Greg when my name's Grant.
Oh,
but
Greg,
that's okay.
Sorry, Greg. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't hear.
This is not helping.
Sorry,
this is not helping the cause of George Santos, but no big deal. I've been called a lot worse.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. So look, all kidding aside, you take a lot of heat from all sides. They come at you. They got some controversy. But in the end, you're voting real conservative. What's this about, George?
Well, here's the deal, Grant. You were there at the NFSC party, but for those who weren't, I've made it a very strong point. When I was sent to Washington, D.C., I was sent to take on a seat that has been Democrat for 20 plus years. I took a Biden plus 10 seat and I won it by 8.5 points. That is an 18-point voter swing in the opposite direction. So I knew I needed to have transformative priorities when I came to Washington, D.C. It wasn't about get along to go along. It was about taking hard, tough conservative votes. I didn't come here for my record to be wishy-washy or to be a squish. I came here for my record to be tough. Tough on China, tough on Russia, tough on communists, tough on Tehran, and to make sure that everything we prioritize in this Congress is about the future of our country, our children, and protecting our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in the United States. And I've done that by introducing 12 bills that would tackle on China head on, not cutting corners, not being shy about it, but punching them in the face, because that's what we have to do. Conservatives need to take this majority and start punching our adversaries in the face through legislation and making sure they understand we're not going to kowtow, not going to back down. We're going to fight. I don't care about the fanfare that the media constantly creates around me. They want to call me the Loch Ness Monster, the boogeyman, Jeepers Creepers. Have at it. I'm here to do the job. I'm here to legislate, and I'm going to legislate and vote conservatively. That is how I ran. That's what I ran on.
So this is what's impressive, because it's a tight district, as you said. Democrats won. I've got another friend, Mike Garcia from California. He wins a very slim district, but he doesn't falter on his conservative principles. And I tell lawmakers, Republican lawmakers, stop being squishy, even in swing districts, tight districts. Vote your principles, vote your values. This isn't just because of the scandals that plagued you, is it? Or is this really you?
Absolutely not. Look, I was a guy who, when I was running for office, I said abortion was barbaric, and I never apologized for that. I'm the same guy who said that, and my votes come through and through. And I said I would not vote for a debt limit increase unless it was historically conservative and there were significant cuts, and that we would roll back to pre-COVID spendings. That was not done. Those conditions were not met. I voted against it. This is not to slide the speaker. I hold him at a very high regard. He's a great man. He does the best he can as leader. But I will not break my values and my principles. This is what I ran on. This is my campaign 101, now in the form of a legislative office here in Washington, D.C.
All right. I did a monologue. 20 Republicans voted against this idea of censuring Adam Schiff. You know, honestly, George Santos, your past is your past. Whatever happened, happened. To me, I just want people who are going to go up there, who are going to fight like the Dickens, do what's right, and not give Democrats ammunition anymore, George.
Well, here's the reality. We need to fight the Democrats like they fight us. This is policy. This is a policy warfare. Their policies suck. Our policies are better. We need to learn how to sell our policies to the American people and show them Republican policies are better for your bottom line. They're better for your children's future. They're better for your livelihood. Democrat policies will make your cost of living higher. They will be detrimental to your child's education, and they take away your freedoms. That's what we need to learn how to do better as Republicans, is to fight the information warfare that the Democrats dominate through the mainstream media. That's why I will never get tired of talking and being unapologetically loud when it comes to defending conservative values, whether it's voting for conservative values, whether it's putting conservative legislation forward, or whether it's doing hits like yours, Grant, that we're able to have a real conservative conversation.
All right, let me play a clip from you. This is you talking about President Trump. It's cut 3 for the guys in the studio. And then I want to get your response from your own clip. Watch.
Donald Trump is the most organic president in the history of our nation, right? Yeah. One can beg to differ. Ronald Reagan was just as organic, but the president came from an outsider perspective, took the world by storm. You know, he took away the presidency for who was promised a presidency, which was Hillary Clinton, shocked the nation, shocked the world. And these people love him. Why? It took a billionaire to become the little man's people. The little man's president. I ran for Congress because I thought Donald Trump, if he made it, it was the time for everybody to have an opportunity.
All right, I want everybody that watches in Flyover Nation to understand. I grew up, I don't like to tell people, but I grew up right outside of New York City. Donald Trump is not the most popular guy in New York City. Your district is right outside of New York City. That could be devastating for you to admit. But you admit it, and I take it you still stand by it.
Oh, my God. Not only I stand by it, I went to Donald Trump's arraignment. I was the only New York elected official from the tri-state area. Do you know why? Because I was with Trump when he came down the escalators, and Republicans made fun of me for supporting Trump back then because it wasn't popular. I was a Trump supporter and a policy Trump supporter during his presidency, when he lost in 2020. And that's controversial at best. And I remain a Trump supporter, and I will always be a Trump supporter, because under Trump's presidency, this country saw the best fiscal policy and sound fiscal growth it's ever seen in the last 2 decades of failed presidents on both sides of the aisle, Grant.
So here's what I told you at the new federal state of China. I said, I don't care about the past. I'll give you a chance and I'll follow your voting record until the moment you leave me. But if you continue to vote this way, introduce bills like this, support President Trump, honestly, I don't know what more we could ask for from a lawmaker, especially a congressman coming out of New York, George.
Well, look, like I said, it's about being transformative. It's about when the electorate change their opinion of we no longer want a Democrat after 25 years representing us, and they vote for a Republican, and a Republican who on the record has taken very, very far right positions, specifically on pro-life and fiscal conservative policies. I'm just going to go all in because that's what they wanted. That's what I promised them, and that's what I'm going to give them. This is it. This is it. This is only going to get better moving forward. Look, I say one thing to everybody who criticized me, to all my critics. If I was a self-serving member of Congress and I only cared about my own hide, I would have voted for the debt ceiling increase because it would have benefited me to fly under the radar. But no, I voted for you, the people of the United States of America, because that's what matters to me.
Well, we thank you for that vote for sure. All right,
Thank
that's
you, sir.
Greg Santos. Greg Santos, thank you for. Oh wait, no, George Santos.
All right, I'll take
I
that
appreciate
one.
you
That's
coming
cool.
up.
It's all right. All right. I own up.
Thank you for coming on tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. You bet.
All right, absolutely. All right, folks. Media Matters is going after Turning Point USA's Alex Clark. Media Matters goes after all of us, but you know what her crime is? Explaining how modern feminism is not good for women. Well, she's spot on right, of course. That's why Media Matters is mad at her. Well, we'll talk to her about that coming up next. you what, folks, I got to do something over the weekend that was great. Right up the street from me in Grapevine, Turning Point USA had their Young Women's Summit. And it's a leadership summit that Turning Point USA puts on for, of course, young conservative women. And I got to be with a lot of old friends, and I got to hear some speakers. And you know what I was left with? I was left with a real burning thought that we are going to be okay as a nation if these are the people that are going to be leading us out of this abyss that the Biden administration has put us into. These young women were so strong, so smart, so conservative, so eye-opening stuff, so inspiring for the young women that were watching them. I thought it was great. How do you criticize any of these people? Well, of course, then Media Matters comes out. Media Matters are these goons that are bought and paid for by Democrat billionaires, and they basically act as a tip sheet for the mainstream media to go after conservatives. You can type Stinchfield in there, you're going to get a million articles on me. Well, Media Matters wrote this hit piece on a friend of mine. And it says this is the headline. Career women in right-wing media tell young girls to give up their dreams at Young Women's Leadership Summit. Now, I didn't hear any of that. If anything, what I heard was these bright young women telling other young women in the audience to follow your dreams. And you don't have to follow them the way the left tells you to follow them. You can have it all if you want it all. Well, this was Alex Clark talking about daycare. Okay, Alex Clark's with Turning Point USA. She's got politics, great on social media. This is her talking about daycare.
When daycare was invented in the United States in the 30s, the goal was to be a last resort for the single moms, widows, and low-income families with no multi-generational help. I believe the feminist movement is in large part to blame for the fracturing of the traditional home, where women were coerced outside of their natural roles as mothers into the workforce. The feminist movement gave way to the notion that a woman could have her cake and eat it too. You can have the career you want, and you can raise your children in a positive educational environment, aka daycare.
Now, what I took away from that is that it's okay to be a mom, and it's okay not to work. But I also took away that if you want to work, then go ahead and have at it. Maybe wait on kids. I don't know. So I figured, you know what, I'll bring her on and ask her what she meant by all this, because Media Matters went apoplectic over that. Turning Point USA contributor and host of The Spillover and Politics is back with us. Alex Clark, it is great to have you back on this program. You were a freaking guest on that old show on that other network, but thank you for coming on today.
Of course, Grant. It's always a pleasure to come on with you.
All right, so are you telling women don't go into the workforce and just only be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen?
Actually, I'm telling women that you can choose to do either. This is the best part about America, is that as women, we can choose to go into the workforce young, or we can choose to have aspirations of being a stay-at-home wife and a mother. The point is, though, that there are always opportunity costs. And so if you're going to choose to go into the workforce young, maybe you should understand the risks of daycare up into a certain age, just so you can plan accordingly. If you choose to stay home, you might have to forfeit your dream job promotion. And so all I'm saying is that women, you can make those choices, but we just need to be more transparent about the truth. The left tells women that it only matters what you think, your own happiness matters, whatever you want to do, girl boss it up, nobody else's opinion matters, nobody else's feelings matters. And I'm saying the left has that wrong, but the right has it wrong too, when they say like, oh, you can have it all, and there's absolutely no sacrifice needed. There is sacrifice, but we can choose at different times when we're going to do those sacrifices. And it's just important to know that.
Were you amazed? I mean, I know you probably weren't, but just how angry they were with your speech.
Well, Grant, I mean, you and I both, I'm sure, were shocked that Media Matters was criticizing me and saying, why aren't you married yet? So they were coming to me saying, why aren't you married yet? And I'm like, well, I can't put a gun to somebody's head and force them to marry me. But look, I'm willing to make those sacrifices when the time comes. If I am blessed and it's God's will for me to be married and have kids, then yes, I will be restructuring what my work schedule looks like and all of that good stuff. But in this season of singleness that I'm in, then I'm going to obviously put my career first. But they tried to call me out and say that I was hypocritical of giving women this advice.
Yeah, unbelievable. Let me play another clip about birth control, another one that triggered them.
A lot of women were under the impression that hormonal birth control is this one-size-fits-all magical pill that will allow us to be able to pursue a career first and then have a family later, right? Finally, we're going to be able to do what I was saying, which is put a career first, we're going to live like a man, we're going to be a man, we're going to act like a man, but here's the first bomb that I'm going to drop on you. Birth control was actually not created to help fight for equality. Birth control was invented by Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood in the 1950s.
All right, so Alex, what's the end message to them? Don't use birth control?
Well, yeah, if you can avoid it at all costs, I think it's better. We see so many negative side effects. The reason we have anxiety, depression rates skyrocketing amongst young women, a lot of them are also using hormonal birth control. So there are lots of other alternatives that women can use. And here's the thing. Until I said this was not a partisan opinion. And this is nonpartisan. People on the left, people on the right, women just agree, hey, there's better options than this pill. It has tons of problems. But of course, because I said it and I'm conservative, now all of a sudden I'm attacking women.
Well, look, I'm 54 years old. I've dated enough women in my life to know that many of them hate birth control. That's no secret that they would rather not be on it if they could at all cost.
And see, the speech was focusing on, hey, here are the big grand scheme lies that feminists told you had no negative costs. There were no negative costs to taking birth control. There's no negative cost to putting your children in daycare before the age of 3. There's no negative cost to abortion and using, counting on IVF as a safety net in order to have a family way later in your life. And so all I was doing is presenting the facts on each and saying, hey, you got to plan accordingly. Just know the truth, and then you get to make your own decisions.
What was the response from the people in the crowd? Mostly young ladies. What was their response?
Well, it was interesting. I thought the response was fantastic. Of course, Madeline Peltz from Media Matters said it was a dead, sleepy crowd. That was not the vibe I got at all being on stage. And then the whole rest of the conference, it was, girl after girl coming up to me saying, Alex, it was because of your talk that I'm deciding to get off birth control. This was my favorite speech of the weekend, etc. So I thought it was a success, but maybe I'm biased. Or maybe Madeline Peltz from Media Matters is biased.
I have a feeling she is biased. Everything that I heard about the speech, I didn't get to see your speech, but everyone that I talked to about this before tonight's segment, when I said, hey, I'm having you on, everybody loved it. And so, but, look, Media Matters lies. Let me play one more just to have some fun. Maybe they're watching Media Matters and really trigger them even more. This is you talking about mothers putting some things on hold, cut 5.
You have to be radically thoughtful with your choices. Sometimes we will have to sacrifice our personal happiness for our families. So if it is possible in any way, we should be putting our own pursuits on hold for the well-being of our children those first 3 years. It really is as straightforward as that.
I can't argue with you on that. If you're able to do it, and not everybody is able to do it, but if you're able to do it, it's got to be the best for the baby.
There are always outliers, and I explain this. If your choice is between daycare or putting food on your table to feed your family, obviously the better, decision for your family is going to be putting food on the table. I am not saying no matter what, there's no exceptions. You shouldn't put your kids in daycare before the age of 3. But if at all possible, the cons outweigh the pros for that age group. And so these are the types of big truths that no one on the right or the left is really talking about. But because it was a women's conference, I wanted to empower young women so that we could plan and make those really thoughtful decisions for our families.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a talk that more people need to be having, and being honest about it is what I was so appreciative of, because so many people are afraid to make waves by saying these things. But honestly, they're what a lot of people need to hear, and that's what you were there for. That's what the whole conference was about.
I tried my best, Grant. I tried my best. But the Young Women's Leadership Summit is my favorite event that we do every year because I can have those types of conversations that are more cultural and not necessarily political, and that's very fun.
Well, I told you, I love everything you do on social media as well. Alex Clark, I appreciate you coming on the program tonight, and just keep up the good work and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Grant.
All right, absolutely. So she's one of the reasons why I have great faith for America in the future. We have people like that headed into public life and moving America in the right direction. We're going to be okay as a nation. okay? And then I say that after having to tell you about this story. Daniel Penny, the Marine who restrained Jordan Neely, the homeless loon on that New York City subway, has been indicted by a grand jury, okay? We'll get to that ridiculous indictment next. You know, one of the things that upsets me the most about this country under Democrat leadership is the fact that good people are under attack in this country. Law-abiding citizens are the ones made out to be criminals in this country, when criminals across this nation are really allowed to skate. There's these no-cash bail policies. This means a revolving door for thugs and thieves in just about every city near you. And then when a Good Samaritan does something to save the day, that Good Samaritan is often hauled into prison. I'm talking about a guy named Daniel Penny. By now, you've probably heard of him. He's the retired Marine that was responsible for saving a train of people. We can roll a video where he was caught on camera trying to subdue one of the top 50 homeless people in New York City, according to one group. This Jordan Neely was threatening people on the train by all witness accounts, trying to subdue him, and ended up choking him to the point where Jordan Neely, at some point, passed away. I don't know whether it was due to the choke, whether it was due to drugs. It doesn't matter. Jordan Neely brought this on himself. You don't charge a guy with murder, which is what a grand jury just did. They indicted him on murder charges. You don't charge a guy like that who's trying to save everyone on the train, who are so afraid of this homeless guy and what he was saying, doing, and threatening. And that's important, threatening. Daniel Penny explained how Jordan Neely was threatening subway riders. Check it out.
A man came on, stumbled on, appeared to be on drugs. The doors closed and he ripped his jacket off and threw it at the people sitting down to my left. I was listening to music at the time and he was yelling, so I took my headphones out to hear what he was yelling. And the three main threats that he repeated over and over was, "I'm gonna kill you, I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die." You know, this was a scary situation, and Mr. Neely came on. He was threatening.
Now, I want you to ask yourself a real serious question. When you listen to him, does he sound like a deranged lunatic? Does he sound like a racist KKK member? And by the way, there was another black man helping subdue that Jordan Neely. Daniel Penny sounds measured. He sounds calm. He sounds cool and collected. Sounds like he knew exactly what he was doing to try to keep people safe. He doesn't seem like he lost his cool in any way, shape, or form. Yet all kinds of mistruths were spread about him. He talked about that.
Some people say that I was holding on to Mr. Neely for 15 minutes. This is not true. I mean, between stops is only a couple minutes. And so the whole interaction lasted less than 5 minutes. Some people say I was trying to choke him to death, which is also not true. I was trying to restrain him. You can see in the video, there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he's breathing. I'm trying to restrain him from him being able to carry out the threats. And then some people say that this is about race, which is absolutely ridiculous.
I agree. It is a tragedy of justice that Daniel Penny is indicted by a grand jury. He wasn't even going to be charged with a crime in New York until the woke Black Lives Matter mob got involved, and Alvin Bragg caved to the district attorney there, charged him, and the grand jury now indicted him. I believe they take their cues from idiots, though. Idiots like Joe Biden in the White House. This guy is a ding-dong. He's a danger to America. He's a national security risk. He was at the League of Conservation Voters annual dinner last night, talking about climate change and the environment and all this stuff. And I want you to listen to Joe Biden lay it out, the case for you. Watch.
We've mobilized the world's leading emitters to help poor countries deal with the impacts of climate change. They called it at the G7 the Build Back Biden, Build Back Better, and we realized that got confusing. So now we don't call it that. What we call it is, here's the bottom line. Look, we're the ones that caused the problem. The United States. We cleared all our land. We did all the things to make things more easy for us to make money.
Do you understand what I'm saying here? He said something was too confusing, the Build Back Better plan. They stole that from England, by the way. Joe Biden's confusing. I can't understand a word he's saying. I think what he was trying to say was taking a page out of the Barack Obama playbook to apologize for America. We caused all the problems when it comes to the environment. We did? Have you been to China? Oh, your Secretary of State's going there tomorrow. Have you been to India? Have you been to Russia? Have you been to Iran? They're doing nothing when it comes to emissions into the air. America isn't the one to blame. So now we're the ones that got to chalk up the money? Is that what Joe Biden's saying? We ruined it all, so let America pay the bill. This guy is so out of control. And if you believe that he is actually out of control, that he's actually a dementia patient, that he's actually an idiot, you only have to listen to this soundbite from that speech last night.
Well, we're going to win and we're going to help. We have plans to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across the Indian Ocean. We have plans to build in Angola, one of the largest solar plants in the world. I can go on, but I'm not. I'm going off script. I'm going to get in trouble.
Hold on a second. They're going to build a railroad across the Indian Ocean. You got to skip over some land there and then across the Pacific? A railroad. You're going to build a railroad across the Indian Ocean and the Pacific. One more time, Mr. President, can you say that? Well, I just want to make sure I got this right. You're building a railroad across the Indian Ocean?
Well, we're going to win and we're going to help. We have plans to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across the Indian Ocean. We have plans to build in Angola.
Angola? What is he talking about? I'm here to tell you, folks, I don't think there's any plans to build a railroad across the Indian Ocean and then across the Pacific, much less just the Indian Ocean. I don't think there's any plans for a railroad across any ocean, okay? Certainly not the Pacific, certainly not the Indian, certainly not the Atlantic, or any place else. But this is what you get with Joe Biden. It's frightening to me. The man is a danger. He is a menace to world security. That's an absolute fact. So when you think about this chaos we got going on in the world, everywhere you look these days, things are falling apart. That's why the smartest investment you can make right now is in your family's food supply, okay? Your reality is you might not be able to find food when the next disaster strikes. That's why I ask you to grab a 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest preparedness company. It is imperative that you go there, and if you go to the website preparewithrav.com, you will save $200 on each kit that you need. $200, it's a big savings. So do me a favor, go to preparewithrav.com, fast, easy shipping, preparewithrav.com, get that $200 off of each kit, preparewithrav.com. Coming up after the break, the Space Force General says the Department of Defense must not stop pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion. Why? We'll show you.
Here are some of the headlines we are featuring today from your favorite news outlets at offthepress.com. First Lady Jill Biden kicked off her husband's re-election effort last night by blasting Republicans as MAGA maniacs. She was in Los Angeles as her husband's substitute and claimed that if Donald Trump wins, chaos will return to Washington. Trump, meanwhile, is warning that Biden is destroying the country. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is sounding more and more like Trump 2.0. He is already mapping out his first moves if he wins the presidency, and they are Trump-like ideas, including moving agencies out of Washington. On Capitol Hill, House Republicans failed to punish Congressman Adam Schiff for his role in impeaching Trump, but they did it to themselves when 20 Republicans voted against censure. And in the annual congressional baseball game last night, it was red over blue again as the GOP beat the Democrats 16-6. For stories like these and more updates all day long from your favorite news outlets, go to offthepress.com.
Welcome back, everyone. So the Space Force General is going down the diversity train. Watch this.
The diverse and inclusive tapestry of the Department of Defense must continue to embrace the LGBTQ plus community. Diversity and inclusion are both force multipliers and warfighting imperatives that enable our competitive advantage against adversaries. We must be able to draw from the best and brightest talent across our nation.
Oh my gosh. Do you hear that? We must go down the LGBTQ direction to keep us a formidable fighting force? Come on, all right? Chanel bags are not what we need on the battlefield. All right? Valentino shoes are not what we need. What we need are real fighters, formidable fighters with M16s and Army boots, okay? Not Louboutins. This is what I'm talking about. They're going totally the wrong direction, and our national security is suffering because of this. To me, it makes my stomach churn. That's going to do it for us. I'm sorry to leave you on a down note like that. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Stinchfield's Army rolls, folks. We'll see you here tomorrow night.
All right, live from Studio 6B, Real America's Voice on a Thursday night. Welcome to the show. Dish Network Channel 219, Pluto TV Channel 470, Samsung TV Plus Channel 1029, and of course follow us on all of these social